Oh, okay, okay. Please cite a salawat.
اللهم صل على
صل على محمد وآل محمد.
عجل
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله بارئ الخلائق أجمعين وعلى أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل.
أما بعد فقد قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله ألا أخبركم بأبعدكم مني شبها قالوا بلى يا رسول الله قال الفاحش المتوحش المتفحش البذيء البخيل المختال الحقود الحسود صدق رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. Once again, I thank you all, brothers and sisters. I am wondering, brothers, is there any way I can see the masjid as well? If anyone is there?
I think Molana today may not be in the masjid. Everybody is mostly home.
Oh, okay. That's okay. All right. Alhamdulillah, thank you for organizing this event once again. We are trying to benefit from the fountain of knowledge and of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. These are valuable opportunities. We should consider them as, things that we will reap the benefits on the day of judgment. Everything we hear, every beautiful phrase from Ahlul Bayt that we hear, it goes into our soul and it brightens up our spirit and gives us a new perspective to look at. It clarifies a lot of doubts. It removes a lot of darkness from the soul, and it gives us motivation to do the right thing. It gives us the motivation to learn more and practice more. So that's why we have the holy month of Ramadan, because one of the fruits of the fasting is to acquire hikmat. In the hadith and Mizanul Hikmah, I was reading a few years ago, I remember that among the samarat, among the fruits of the month of Ramadan, among the fruits of fasting is hikmat. Hikmat, you become a hakim when you are trying to control your urges, your temptations. You acquire a higher ability to think clearly. It gives you clarity in your thought. It strengthens your abilities to think, because usually we are indulged in worldly things and basically trying to satisfy our appetites, which there is no limit to that. So it is best to try to provide food to our intellect. I will begin with the hadith of Mawla Amir al-Mu'min alayhi salatu wassalam, where he said that kullu wi'a'in, every vessel, every container, let's say I'm holding this cup in my hand, every container, kullu wi'a'in yadhiqu bima ju'ila fi. Every container is such that if you pour something into that container, it gets filled up to the brim, right? Yadhiqu, there is no space left in it. Dhiq, kullu wi'a'in, this is the wi'a, this is any container. Yadhiqu, when you pour something into it, it gets filled. Yadhiqu bima ju'ila fi. Illa wi'a'ul ilm, except one container, which is the container of knowledge. فَإِنَّهُ يَتَّسِعُ بِهِ. The container of knowledge is not like this container. It is a container in which إِلَّا وِعَاءُ الْعِلْمِ فَإِنَّهُ يَتَّسِعُ. The more knowledge you put into that container of knowledge, the bigger it gets. It expands. When you get more knowledge, the container of knowledge expands. Now I want to ask you, what is the container of knowledge called?
I think it is the Islamic knowledge and the whole ilm. I
where do you put in where does the knowledge go when you
It's your
learn
brain.
something?
It's your
Huh?
not. It's your brain.
Brain, your intellect. Salawat. Allahumma salli. MashaAllah. I'm talking to the smartest and most educated crowd in the United States of America. MashaAllah. See, I started today's discussion. I want to talk about hiqd and hatred and grudge, because we are taking one topic every day that has many applications. You say in a lot of problems that happen all the way from early Islam, all the way from Habil and Qabil to Karbala to now, is all because of grudges and hatred, right? We want to understand what that is. See, Qabil disliked something, like say he wanted to acquire some higher position which was granted to Habil. Qabil could not get it. So then that led to negative thinking, and that turned into jealousy. Now jealousy turned into hatred, and hatred acquired such a level that he smashed his brother's head with a stone. That's how we start from the beginning, and then you carry on. Okay, you carry on in the generations after generations. You see the same theme coming out, right? Ibrahim and Namrud. What Namrud had against Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibrahim alayhi salam was not stealing his money. What had Fir'aun had against Musa alayhi salam? Musa was not asking him to hand over his palace. What did Abu Sufyan have against Rasulullah? The holy Rasulullah was not trying to kick him out of Makkah and acquire his position. What did Muawiyah have against Imam Ali alayhi salam? Imam Ali alayhi salam did not have any personal enmity against Muawiyah. But you see, there is something similar between jealousy and hatred. Hasad and hiqd. Hiqd means kina. In Farsi, the kine. In Urdu, say kina. Kina tuzi, kina parvari. You know, when a person, he starts seeing himself small, lacking in something, and sees another person having something, right? Like, for example, we are in the same class, and one of us gets ahead, and this other one does not. One gets promoted into a, let's say, honors roll, dean's list. The other one does not. One person gets a higher grade consistently. The other one works hard, but let's say he's not so organized, his mental abilities or whatever it is, he doesn't grasp the subject so well, or he does not do well in exam, whatever be the case, does not get that kind of ranking in the exam or after. So he starts feeling what? Seeing himself small, the other person as big, himself as lower than the other person. Okay. Usually that happens among people you know. Like you won't usually not have jealousy against a total stranger. That's interesting. You will usually have a jealousy against somebody you know. It could be in your relatives, circle of your friends, somebody in your masjid, somebody at your workplace. Okay, we were in the same team. We started off with the same salary, and he's making twice the salary in 2 years and than me. How did that happen? Obviously, the sad reality is that let's say I am behind and that person is ahead. Okay, there's something lacking in me. I didn't work so hard. I didn't do the extra work. I didn't have the same motivation probably, right? Or whatever it is, the other person, right? He did better. So I cannot acknowledge, and I cannot admit and accept the fact that I am lower than him. So I start feeling jealous about this person. Now, the difference between jealousy and hatred. Kina is one thing, hasad and jealousy is another thing. In hasad, what you want is the other person to lose. Like you would want his merits to be taken away, his extra bonuses to be taken away. You don't want the other person to succeed, right? In jealousy, generally, jealousy does not involve violence or for example, becoming physical with somebody or using means to hurt the person. but rather you want the zawalun ni'mah from that shakhs. You want that person not to get promoted, or you want him to get demoted. You don't want to kill him. You don't want to beat him up. You don't want to kick him. That's not hasad. That is called hiqd and kina. Hatred. Hatred. You see, the roots of hatred are in jealousy. So they have something in common. In both these cases, you see yourself less than the other person, but you don't want to acknowledge and use it to improve yourself. Rather, you allow this thought, you cultivate this negative feeling about the other person until it turns into hatred. And you can, of course, when people hate, when one person starts hating the other person, he starts labeling that person with different things. Starts manipulating different ways, using different means to hurt the person. It's not just about taking away his benefits, rather to get him out, get rid of him. That's what hatred is. So it is a very serious condition. It is something, obviously it has, you could, in people with narcissistic issues and other issues, with mental health issues, you have people who are psychopaths or sociopaths. They start, people with different kind of conditions, they exhibit these kind of qualities where they show so much hate against the person. Sometimes, when you see people showing anger towards their co-workers or towards one of their relatives, it's because of jealousy. But jealousy has turned into hatred at times, which is really the worst thing you can imagine. Please cite a salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Let me start with some ahadith. These are beautiful ahadith. Before I mention ahadith, look at the importance of this discussion, that Karbala happened because of hatred. Karbala, killing of Imam Ali alayhi salam in the mosque of Kufa, in the mihrab, on the night of Qadr, in his salat, right, happened caused by a person who had a long beard, who was probably, I don't know, he used to pray, he used to fast, and all that he had to do. But the hatred, the jealousy, it does not know any limits. And then the hatred, once there's hatred, it gets covered with all kinds of justifications. Why I want to hurt this person? Because he's kafir, because he's Shia, because he's Rafidi, he is whatever he is, and you plan to hurt this person. But it's basically because you are not like Ali, and you can never become like Ali. This person is Abdul Rahman ibn Muljam, and he's nothing compared to Mawla Ali alayhi salatu wasalam, and he cannot accept that. He, instead of looking at the great personality of Imam Ali, is become blind. Like bat, it comes in the daytime, the sun, it becomes blind, can't see. Only in the darkness it can maneuver. So this hadith of the Holy Prophet of Islam, he said, Allah ukhbirukum. Do you want me to tell you about the person who is farthest away from me? There is nothing common between him and me. You want to know who that person is? Qalu bala ya Rasulullah. He said, yes, ya Rasulullah, tell us about the person who has no similarity with you. Qala al-fahish. Fahish means person who has a bad mouth, bad tongue. Al-mutafahish, person who's careless, right? Who doesn't worry if he's called a bad name. A mutafahish is a person, you called him, for example, a bad name, a really bad name, he doesn't mind. That's mutafahish. Okay. Al-bazi. Okay. He uses bad tongue, bad words in his language. Al-bakhil, a stingy person, conjus, bakhil. Al-mukhtal, a mukhtal is a person who is too proud of himself. Al-haqud, a person who is who's hate mongering. Basically a person who hates somebody. Al-hasud, a person who's jealous. The Holy Prophet said, these people have nothing to do with me. You may be a hafiz of Quran, you may be staying up for ibadat all night, you may be praying and doing whatever. if you have a bad mouth, if you have jealousy against, for example, another mu'min, if you have kine and hatred against another brother or sister in Islam, because of whatever reason, he's ahead of you. You feel that jealousy in you. You may be reading the kalima of Tawheed 100 times a day or 1,000,000 times a day. Doesn't make any difference. The Holy Prophet says, you are not from me. You have nothing to do with me. Please say the salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa
محمد
ali Muhammad.
وآل محمد.
Ajal farajahum. Jazakallah.
Before I go ahead, if a person feels jealousy is something you can feel. You can notice, okay, I am feeling something around this person. When this person starts talking, I have this, I feel uneasy. Why, for example, people like his, for example, in my profession, why people like his speech so much? Or if you're, let's say, engineer, okay, why does his offer get accepted, mine doesn't get accepted? If my opinions are not taken seriously, his opinions are getting. Okay, I feel artist, you say, if you make a piece of art, other person, people like that one more. Why do people like that one more? Why not mine? This is, this is really a problem amongst us. And obviously, when you start feeling that, you have to find something positive about the other person and start praising that person before this jealousy turns into hatred. You have to nip it in the bud. You have to preempt, you have to stop it before it grows into hatred, because whenever there is the seed of jealousy inside, it's going to produce its fruits. It's going to grow into an evil tree. This fruit, its fruits are going to be ugly. They're going to smell bad. They'll be poisonous. A person who is jealous will only act in negative ways. He cannot get along with another person who he sees as ahead of him or better than him. Okay. Let me read this beautiful hadith from Mawla Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam. He says, I'm going to read this Arabic and read the Farsi and then translate the Farsi, okay? Imam says, احترسوا من ثورة الجمد والحقد والغضب والحسد وأعدوا لكل شيء من ذلك عدة تجاهدونه بها من الفكر في العاقبة ومنع الرذيلة وطلب الفضيلة وصلاح الآخرة ولزوم الحلم. This is the most beautiful hadith I have found on this subject. I've read a lot of stuff on this subject. I couldn't imagine something more beautiful than this anyway. Let me read the Farsi translation first, okay? As hiddat bukhl, as shiddat bukhl, wa kinatuzi, wa khashm, wa hisadat, beparhizid, و برای مبارزه با هر یک از اونها جنگ افزاری مانند اندیشیدن در عاقبت آنها، مبارزه با رذیلت و طلب فضیلت و اصلاح کار آخرت و لزوم بردباری و گذشت فراهم آورید. اللهم صل علی محمد و آل محمد. Let me translate. This one hadith will take a whole discussion. Anyway, احترسوا. Don't let's stop your the enraging of the stinginess, miserliness. Stop the fire of bukhl and hatred and anger and jealousy, right? Before it starts getting full blown, starts exploding, contain it, calm it down, extinguish this fire before it gets out of control. And you must fight. And in order to control this fire, in order to extinguish this fire of jealousy and hatred and anger and all of these things, right? Find the right resources. Right means, tools and resources. Find the right resources to control these negative temptations inside you, then Imam lists those things, resources that you need to control your hatred and jealousy. What are those? And the shidan dar aqibatu unha. Think about the consequences of hatred. What could what could happen if you continue on the path of hatred? What could happen to you? You could harm yourself so much by these negative feelings about other people. Look at the consequences, the impact it could have on you. Think about Waman al-Razila and fight this evil quality, fight this negative quality, act against it. See, you start feeling jealousy in your heart, you start praising that person. You start, let's say there's some speaker you hate. You just say, he does not know anything, he doesn't have a right way of speaking, I don't like an accent, whatever. Okay, and okay, fine, speaker may have tons of problems. But the thing is, okay, now you start backbiting that person. Okay, you know what? All the time, when you notice yourself talking about that person again and again, there's something wrong. Okay, you might say something once, but if you keep talking about that person, there's something wrong about you. Something is not right. Why would you be on somebody's case again and again? So you start praising that person, start thinking deep. Hey, what's wrong with me? Why am I so fixated on this person? Why he is how he is? Why he's this way? Why he's that way? Why is that so? So you have to fight your own bad qualities inside, negative traits inside, and seek virtue. Talab al-fadila. Talab al-fadila would be to be well-wisher for the other person. If you think somebody lacks in something, why not help him, give him good advice? Do you think somebody needs to, let's say, do some job better? Why don't you give him some feedback? Why don't you give him some advice and then encourage him? So inshallah, because he's one of you, she is one of you. Let's say you are a zakir, another zakir, you have something against him. Why not give him good advice instead of finding some weakness and blowing it up? Okay, talab al-fadila wa salah al-akhirah. Think about the correctness of your affairs of akhirat. Why are you so concerned about today? Why are you so concerned about today? I don't know, that takes my mind back to the day when I was in the house of Ayatollah Bahjat, and Ayatollah Bahjat was right there, and it was a small gathering, probably 8 or 10 people sitting there, and there was a sheikh sitting on a chair reading a majlis. This sheikh I had seen before. He was like a laborer, he used to work outside building stuff in the building construction area in Qom. I saw him working with an amama on his head. He used to take a cart, with the trolley with the stones and wood and all that. And this day in our Bahjat's house, I saw him sitting on this chair reading a majlis. He was old guy. He was probably not very, not very well read, or not even a great speaker. But Agha Bahjat had invited him because he was probably living in the same area. Agha Bahjat wanted to just have a majlis with when somebody coming and reading a majlis in his house. He didn't mind. So this sheikh was really sitting there, and he started speaking, and I saw the poor guy, he forgot what he was talking about. After a few minutes, he had probably no clue what he was talking about. He was just sitting silent on the chair. And I was noticing that people sitting in the room started giggling and smiling, and some people like cracking something joke in somebody's ear. That's how I started noticing. But I looked at Agha Bahjat's face. There was no change. Agha Bahjat was Agha Bahjat. He was sitting in this majlis of Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam, and he was deep in his, devotion to Imam Hussain alayhi salam. This was a majlis of Sayyid al-Shuhada he had for God knows 70 years, 60 years. It was all his life he had this majlis on Fridays. Salahul Akhirah. Look at our affairs for Akhirat, not only for dunya. We take some things which are so small, we make them so big. And the big things we lose track of, Salahul Akhirah wa luzum al-hilm, and observe patience and tolerance. Imam said, if you want to control your hatred, you control your jealousies, then you should be a person who has more forbearance, more tolerance and acceptance of other people. Please cite a salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد
محمد وآل
Let me,
محمد.
mention some beautiful hadith. This one is from Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. He says, Hiqdul mu'min maqamuhu. Hiqdul mu'min maqamuhu. The hatred, if it appears in the heart of a believer, mu'min, it is only in that instance. That's all. ثُمَّ يُفَارِقُ أَخَاهُ فَلَا يَجِدُ عَلَيْهِ شَيْئًا. So let's say you feel a certain very intense negative feeling against another mu'min brother, let's say, who says something negative, or he just, whatever he is, maybe he's doing something wrong or whatever. But that hatred is only in that moment. ثُمَّ يُفَارِقُ أَخَاهُ. When he leaves that gathering, when he leaves that setting, فَلَا يَجِدُ عَلَيْهِ. He feels like I have no ill feeling against this person. Like he completely forgets how he felt, how negative he felt about this person. وَحِقْدُ الْكَافِرِ دَهْرُهُ. But the hatred in the heart of a kafir is a lifetime. A moment might feel something really negative, or might feel in that moment, I hate this person so much. But you walk away from it, no trace of that, no sign of that remains in your heart. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa
اللهم صل على
على محمد وآل محمد.
Same
Subhanallah.
hadith from our sixth Imam in the different words. He said, Al-mu'minu yahqidu ma dama fi majlisi. A mu'min might feel a kina in his heart, right? As long as he's sitting in that gathering. فَإِذَا قَامَ ذَهَبَ عَنْهُ الْحِقْدُ. But when he exits, when he leaves that, departs that gathering, the hiqd also goes away. The kina, the hatred also goes away. So that means you monitor yourself. Oh my God, I hate this guy so much. Do I always feel it? Or only when I'm facing him? Maybe I feel certain way when I am facing this guy. When I move away from him, I don't feel anything. But there is iman in you. But if you feel like you're holding that grudge against him, next day, that's a big problem. That's a problem. That needs to stop. Please cite another salawat. Allahumma salli.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Subhanallah.
See, Molana says, he says, Al-itab khayrun min al-hiqd. Sarzanish kardan behtar ast az kine badil giriftan. If you, let's say, you dislike someone, why don't you tell him on the face? Instead of holding the grudge in your heart, Imam says, Sarzanish kardan, okay, you want to reprimand him? Okay, then do it. Why do you hold the grudge and hatred in your heart for 20 years? Better to talk it out. Talk it over and be done with it. Mawla Ali alayhi salam said, Al-haqud mu'azzabun nafs. A person who is kinatus, who is hateful, right? He's always in azab. Always in azab. Mutada'aful ham. His sadness only grows with time. So his hatred is on the surface. Deep inside is actually sadness. I've seen a lot of people who have anger issues. Actually, they are depressed. Most of the people who have anger issues, actually what they need is some kind of medication or treatment for depression. They're depressed and the soft feeling just can't come out, so they express their hard feelings against another person. Mawla Ali has another beautiful hadith. He says, Ashaddul qulub ghillan qalbul haqud. The badkhah tarina dilha dilat kinatuzas. Most evil intentions, the heart with the Ashaddul qulub, a heart that is full of evil intentions, the worst of all the hearts with evil intentions is the heart of a person who is full of hate. You might have bad intentions. You might have issues against people, right? And you might be a pessimist. You might be antisocial. You might be a person who just likes to be with yourself, who just can't get along with people. Okay. But when it gets to a point of hatred, Right? This is the worst of conditions you can imagine. Please say the salawat. Allahumma salli ala
اللهم صل على محمد
وآل محمد.
One last hadith from Molana Amir al-Mu'mineen from Mustadrak al-Wasail. Imam alayhi salam says, دع الحسد, leave jealousy, والكذب, and lying, والحقد, and hatred. فإنهن ثلاثة, because these are three qualities: hasad, kizb, and hiqd. Jealousy, lying, and hatred. There are three qualities. Tushinuddin, right? In se khaslat deen insan ra lakhidar mikunat. They make an ugly face out of your deen. They turn the face of your deen, religion, ugly. They destroy the face of your religion, tarnish the face of your religion. وَتُهْلِكُ الرَّجُلُ وَمُنْجَرْبِ نِگُنْ بَخْتِيَ وُمِشَوَرْ. This destroys the aqibat of a person. A person who's filled with jealousy, and he's in the habit of lying, right? Exaggerates, sometimes ignores facts, and has hatred against people. This is a person who is, first of all, let's say he's a religious person, but people will not like it. What kind of religion is this, man? He's this guy, when he comes, he brings so much negative energy with him. He sits in a gathering, he's looking for something wrong. When you mention something positive, he turns it around and turns it to negative things. When you're praising somebody, he finds some fault with that person. You are trying to come up with some positive ideas, he finds something wrong with those ideas. All the time criticizing, all the time finding something wrong with everybody else around him, even himself. Like he's always just negative. This is an ugly face of religion. But tuhlikur rajul, this destroys the person's aqibat also. How can you have a good aqibat when you have such negative feelings for other people? When you just can't state the facts as they are, you know? When you can't like come up to the person and say, hey brother, there's something I want to talk to you on the side. There's something you said the other day, I don't like it, and I'm feeling very bad about it. I'm feeling negative and somewhat a lot of anger towards you. And I wanted to talk to you about it. And why not talk it over? Talk and finish this. But no, we have people who would, instead of talking, they would go around all over the community, talk against people or against their family member, or just, become hateful towards everybody. Because of 5 bad experiences in their life, they think everybody is like that. And they just become negative towards people, community, or certain nation or certain race or certain tribe or certain language or certain people. He says, okay, I saw bad things from these 5 people from this community. Oh, they're all this type. I hate these people. They're all like the same way, This is like a really sad, state of affairs. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us, inshallah, be able to control ourselves, be more mindful, and seek help when we are feeling this way, because it's all based on some kind of depression or anxiety. It's mental health issues give rise to these things. Because just as physical health, see some people who have a physical health situation, they are in a bad mood, right? Similarly, if you are emotionally, you are not healthy, you're in a bad mood and you say bad things too. So inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us make the zuhur of Imam close and make these nights of blessing for us and maghfirat and iltamas dua to all of you. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa alihi tayyibin at-tahirin.
اللهم صل على محمد
وعلى محمد وعجل فرجهم. شكرا.